Okay, so yesterday we talked about how we plot points on a graph, but we can do more than just graph a set of points. So if you have a whole bunch of points that you're trying to graph at the same time, that's called a relation. So we can show the same relation in multiple ways. So instead of just listing them out as points, which we talked about yesterday, and we know each point is x comma y, that we can also write it in a table. We could graph these points like we did yesterday, or we can do something called mapping notation. So we're going to start with the graph since we just did that yesterday. So I'm going to go ahead and remind ourselves of how to graph. So -2 tells me I should be going 2, starting from the origin, going 2 to the left, and then 3 up, and that's a point. My next point is at 1 comma 4, so I go 1 to the right and 4 up, 2, 3, 4. My next point is at 3, -1, so that 3 should be to the right 3, 1, 2, 3. And 1 is negative, so then I go down 1 and put a point. And then the last one's at 0, 5. So 0 being the first number tells me I don't move to the right or left. I stay right in the middle. And I only go +5, which means up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I put that dot at the top. So that's just we knew how to do that already. Another way that you may already know is how to take these points and write them in a table of points. So the table's already listed out. X is on the left and Y is on the right. And all you got to do is put the numbers in the correct column. So we know the first number is X, the second number is Y. So you put the first number in the first column, in the X column, and the second number in the Y column. Pretty easy. So that was -2, -3. The next point is at 1, 4. Our next point is at 3, -1. And our last point is at 0, 5. It doesn't matter the order you write them in. I could have written these points in any order as long as the X's were underneath the X column and the Y's were underneath the letter Y. Okay? The last thing we have to do is called mapping notation. So mapping notation is kind of like writing it in a table, but instead of writing it in the little boxes, you write it in these circles. So I'm going to try and draw these like oval shapes nicely. So there's going to be 2 ovals, one for your X numbers, just like we have an X column, and one for your Y numbers. And then all you have to do is you put the X and Y numbers in the bubbles. Now the only thing you do need to remember is that if any of these numbers repeat, you only would write them once. So I'm going to write off to the side, no repeats. Okay, so here we go. We're going to write all the X numbers in the X bubble. Do any of them repeat? That means are any of them the same number multiple times? So I see -2, a 1, a 3, a 0. These are all different numbers. So I'm going to write all of them in the bubbles. So I'm going to put -2, 1, 3, and 0. Great. In the Y column, I'm checking, are any of them the same number multiple times? So 3, 4, -1, and 5. Nope, they're all different numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and write them all. 3, 4, -1, and 5. And the last thing you have to do with mapping is in the table, like you know that -2 and 3 go together because they're in the same like row together. So I need to connect the numbers that go together in these bubbles because right now they're just like floating out there. So I know that -2 goes with 3, so I'm going to draw a line from -2 to 3. And I'm going to put a little arrow because that tells me that they are a pair. They're supposed to be in the same point together. So 1 goes with 4, so I'm going to draw a line. 3 goes with -1, draw a line. 0 goes with 5, draw a line. Okay, That is the only difference between tables and mapping. Our special case, which we just talked about with mapping notation, there is no repeats. So we're going to look at what happens if something repeats. So I'm going to draw my bubbles again, my big ovals. And I'm going to label this one the X, because that's where I'm going to put the X numbers, and the Y's over here. I'm going to label my points X's and Y's because I don't have them already set up in a table nice and neat for me, just to make sure I'm putting them in the correct bubble. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to look at my X's, I'm going to make sure none of these X numbers are the same thing twice. So I have a 6, 8, 7, I have a 6 again. These numbers are the same number twice. So I'm not going to put 6 and another 6. I'm only going to put a 6. So I put 6, I put 8, I put 7. I do not write 6 again because I already wrote 6. Okay. And the Y numbers I'm going to check to see if any of those repeat. I have 4, -2, -2, 0. Did any of them repeat? Yes, the -2 and -2. So I'm only going to write -2 one time. I'm not going to write it several times. So I'm going to put 4. I'm going to put -2. I am not putting -2 again because I already wrote it. And I'm putting 6. Or a 0, sorry, 0. And then I just have to connect up the ones that we know are supposed to go together. So 6 and 4 go together. I'm going to draw a line. 8 goes with -2. Draw a line. 7 goes with -2. I've got to draw another line from 7 pointing at -2. So you can see -2 has 2 arrows pointing at it. That tells me that -2 was used in both of these points. And then the last one, 6 goes with 0. So 6 was a repeating number, so it's going to have 2 arrows coming off of it, because 6 goes with 4 in the first point and 6 goes with 0 in the second one.